Do the Aggies need a running back in the portal? For a while, I thought maybe. Now I'm thinking no. I'll tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Aggies.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm host Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Friday, we're going to talk a little bit about a little way too early lineup projection. I saw some on Twitter. I'm going to read through it and share my thoughts. Do I agree with some positions? Do I disagree? Should be a lot of fun. It's always fun to talk about the future when it comes to lineups and who's going to play in that. Long way to go and portal players to add and stuff, but it's a fun conversation to have here on a Friday. Going to start the show talking about something I've seen a lot on social media this week, and that has to do with the Texas A&M running back room. I've seen a lot of folks kind of coming in here and saying, I think Texas A&M needs a running back. Now, hear me out. For a while, I thought that Texas A&M might need a guy in that room. And it was partially because I figured you were going to see one of these players hit the portal, whether it was Daniels, whether it was Owens, whether it was Le'Veon Moss. But still to this point, you haven't seen anybody leave yet. And I just don't think you need, you have to look at the transfer portal in this way, and this is the sad reality of the transfer portal. But the way you have to look at the transfer portal is if players aren't really necessary to your roster, like if it isn't make or break, I don't see the point in going to get players. And I understand depth and adding depth and how important it is, and I get all that for sure. But I just don't think you need to bring players in to be a fifth string, knowing what the portal is nowadays, knowing that the portal is now give me money. I need lots of money. It's funny. I tell my dad, I'm like, do I sound like an old head here? But I just don't love what the transfer portal is doing to college football. And I love that it's bringing opportunities to these kids and sending money to families and helping them get through college. There's a lot of positives. But I think there's a lot of negatives too. And I think hey, I'm not getting paid to give you the answers to that because I'm not on the NCAA board. So I don't know, the legislation, whatever. But there's got to be a way to make this better for everybody. And I don't know what it is, but it's not my decision to make. But whoever's decision it is to make needs to make one, because it just seems like it's really hurting college football, something that's is such a big deal here. But that's the way you have to look at it now. It's a sad reality of what football is, or college football is now. You have to look at it and go, do we need a running back? Because we're going to be spending some money if we need one. And I just don't think the running back position is one the Aggies need to go spend big money on, knowing that unless someone leaves. And I remember about 2 weeks ago, I talked about, do you need one in the portal? And I had some, if this, and this happens, I'd go get a running back in the portal. You got to remember, you have two really good players coming in via the high school recruiting at the running back position, which is good because you didn't have any in your recruiting class last year. You did bring in, obviously, E.J. Smith for a little while, but we saw what happened there. So you're going to have those two. Then you're going to have the three guys we assume back: Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss, and Rueben Owens. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If there's still a long portal window to go. So right now you got 5 good players in this room. If one of them left, if Moss leaves, I don't know why he would, but let's say he were to, or if Owens left, if one of those two left, I would think about going to get one because they're that valuable. I'm now to a point where I think if they were leaving, they would have left. Because they would be players going to your Alabamas, Oregon's, Georgia, LSU. They'd be going to the big time schools, right? Those two guys. And those big-time schools are right now currently looking for new running backs in the portal. If they're late, they're already going to – those big schools are going to have running backs. So I think if they were going to hit the portal, they would have. Feel pretty confident in that. I mean, obviously, it's the portal. You never know what's going to happen. But I feel pretty confident. If one of them left, I would start searching the running back market. If Daniels left and you still have Moss and Owens plus your 2 running backs in this 2025 class that I think are going to be really good, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I really wouldn't. So I think that's the way I'm kind of looking at this room is if one of those 2 guys leaves, I'd go get them. Now, the question is, should we be worried about, injuries? Owens, he's going to be really fresh off that injury. Obviously, you need some time after an injury. It was good to see him back on the field tail end of the season. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the bowl game. But he'll be 100% great to go for the start of next season. Moss, I'm not too worried about him. I think he's going to be okay for the start of next season. I mean, it wasn't – did we ever get like a real what the injury was? I mean, because I know it was knee. But like it was kind of it was a season ender, so it was kind of like, well, they never really got a huge update. Let's see, yeah, leg. Like I remember never seeing a super great update on that. I mean, I know he had to get surgery, but point is, it doesn't sound like something where he's going to be out next season. If that changes, I'll obviously bring that information to y'all, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So, I mean, if you're going into next season with your running back room being Le'Veon Moss, Rueben Owens, Amari Daniels, and the 2 freshmen, you feel great. I don't think you need any depth additions there, honestly. If one of those guys leaves, you could start talking me into it, but I think that's the key point here. If none of these guys leave, why would you go spend $150,000, whatever it is? But this is the reality. You have to look at it as, it's a cookie jar and you got the cookies and how many cookies do you want to give to each player? I mean, I just sound like I was explaining that to a toddler. That's kind of funny, but that's how people need to explain it to me. But, the point here is this. They need to look at the portal that way of like, you need to spend money where you need to spend money. Don't bring in players that will never see the light of day. I don't think a running back, assuming that you bring in all these guys, unless it's prime Emmitt Smith, and obviously his son wasn't all that great here. No offense to him. Unless you're bringing in prime Emmitt Smith, I don't know why you'd go get a running back because I think Le'Veon Moss. And my other take here on this running back room, and like I said, we're getting ready to run through starters and stuff like that. I am all in on Le'Veon Moss. If y'all remember correctly from last offseason, I kind of leaned, and when I leaned this way, it was like 52-48, 51-49 toward Owens being the guy before Owens went down with the injury. But I think that Le'Veon Moss is our running back. I think he is a darn good player. I think he's the future in this room. I am really excited to see what he is going to be able to do in a Texas A&M uniform, down the road, because I just think he's such a great player. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like. I think he could be, now that we've seen a Jarquez Hunter move on and we're going to see some other SEC running backs move on, I think there's a world where Le'Veon Moss could be the best running back in the SEC next year. In an offense that's going to want to run the football, hopefully you're going to improve an offensive line. It's going to be a really special season for him. So I'm really excited to see kind of how that works itself out because I just think he's going to have a special year. And I am fired up to see what that looks like for Le'Veon Moss. But, I mean, so I've laid out my argument. Let me know in the YouTube comments, y'all. Do you think Le'Veon Moss is the future? Do you think we need obviously, I believe y'all think that. Do we need a running back in the portal? And if you think we do, I'd like to know why. And if we don't, what would it take for you to say, hey, we need one? So let me know those things in the YouTube comments. I'm really curious to hear y'all's thoughts. We're going to start breaking down potential starting lineup for next year. I think it'll be a fun conversation. Obviously, it's early. It's premature. There's a lot of things still to break down, but it's fun to have where we're at now, and we'll do it again in 3 months, and they'll do it again in 6 months, and that's just the way it's going to roll. So leave those things in the YouTube comments. We're going to talk a little bit about the projected starters coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, we got to talk about the best thing ever created in the world, which is Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. I love Rocket Money. It sounds like one of those things. Oh, Andrew's just trying to talk to us about something again. Well, whatever. Seriously, everyone is paying for a subscription they don't think they're paying for. I didn't think I was. It seriously canceled 3 subscriptions for me. I love this. I had my parents get it. I had my grandparents get it. You have all got to go check this out. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Also want to tell you all about our friends over at Game Time. Those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know that I absolutely love the Game Time app. Talking about another app that I have pushed on all of my friends and family members. I love how easy the Game Time app is to use. I love the prices. I love how my favorite feature of the app is how you can see exactly where your seat is. Okay, here. Oh, that ticket. Oh, it's a $42 ticket. Click on that. Here's what my seat looks like. Here's a $61 ticket. Let's compare the seats. What makes the most sense for me financially? What is the best place for me to sit for this sporting event, this ball game, this concert, this go see a comedian, whatever it is. I love the Game Time app. It is a place everybody needs to go check out. I promise y'all will not regret it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So our friends over at Aggies Sports 365, really fun page. The @ is 365 Aggie. Fun. They tweet a lot of great stuff. Keep you updated on breaking news. Really, really enjoy their page. Have for a long time now. But they gave a projected starting lineup. And I think it's going to be fun to run through this and share my thoughts and see if I agree, if I disagree. So we'll talk about the offense here, and then we'll talk about the defense in our next segment. So let me know in the YouTube comments, y'all's thoughts on this, and we'll break it down. So at quarterback, Marcel, I don't know what it would take for. I mean, I don't think Miles O'Neill is going to take over Marcel Reed. I just don't see that happening. I don't think Zeno, our new quarterback. I mean, I think we kind of know what we have in Zeno. I don't think he's the type of player that's going to like come in and do something all that crazy special. I just don't see that happening. Marcel's our guy. I like that we have Zeno and that we have some of these guys, and we have Hart, and we have some of these guys with upside and that could potentially play a role as a future quarterback on this team. But Marcel Reed's the guy right now. I feel pretty confident about that. It would take a mountain for that to change, and I just don't think it's going to be the reality. Want to see Marcel Reed continue to develop, continue to improve. As I've talked about, if he could get better as a passer, if he could get a little bit more accurate, Marcel Reed could be a special player for Texas A&M and a special player in college football. I mean, a Heisman upside player. We've seen these quarterbacks that run the ball well win the Heisman. I mean, Cam Newton, running quarterback, Heisman. Johnny Manziel, running quarterback, Heisman. Jane Daniels, running quarterback, Heisman. Now, obviously, what they did is they were all three of those guys could pass the ball as well. Marcel Reed's going to continue to develop as a passer, but if he does that, I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, but he's got that like type of upside. He could do something like that if he gets better as a passer, and he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. Yeah, there's a world where that happens. At running back, he's got Moss / Owens. Here's my now. He's not wrong here. I mean, Aggie Sports 365. They're not wrong here. All I'll say is this: I just think I lean toward Le'Veon Moss being the guy. We've seen, and it's hard to say that because we really haven't seen the bulk of Rueben Owens. We saw him as a freshman. There were some efficiency issues, and there were things he could have been better, and there were some holes missed and stuff, but you saw the upside. We've still not gotten to see that upside, but here's the issue. I just think that Le'Veon Moss has a chance to be the best running back in the SEC next year. So if you want to tell me they're 1A, 1B, I'm fine with that. I really am, and I think that's kind of what they're getting at here, but I lean toward him being, Le'Veon Moss being the guy in this running back room. Receiver, got Noah Thomas, Craver, and Terry Bussey. Now, the issue here is when it comes to Jerome Miles, he's coming off that injury. It's going to be interesting to see how explosive he is, and is he going to be ready to go? On top of that, he's going to be a freshman. So it's never easy to come in and play as a freshman. I think it's easier to come in and play as a freshman as a receiver rather than it is in the trenches or somewhere else. But now the interesting question here is Hudson. Does Hudson, you figure Craver is going to be on the inside, and I feel pretty good about him starting. So the question then becomes, does Hudson beat out Noah Thomas or Bussey? And I think Bussey is going to create a special future as a wide receiver. I think he's really good. Is he going to end up playing that Travis Hunter role where he plays both sides of the ball? I'm not really sure. I just don't know. I mean, that could happen. That could be the reality, but I don't know what's going to happen with him as a player. He can play both sides of the ball, but do they kind of lead toward one side being the spot for him, kind of, is what I'm getting at. So that is going to be one of the more interesting kind of off-season debates, topics, as we get ready for next year, because I mean, the wide receiver position, as we've talked about, is going to be a very, very crucial one, just knowing what the Aggies are trying to do by bringing in and improving that unit. So there's still a lot to be done, a lot to be decided within that Texas A&M wide receiver room. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Hudson beat out Bussey or Noah Thomas, because I think that the upside is 150,000% there for Micah Hudson. We've talked about it. I mean, the former 5-star, he could be elite. Still some room to develop there, but Noah Thomas is the guy that we've seen the most of. We know who he is as a player. You know the upside. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up winning that battle there. Tight end, he's got Theo right now. Will any of the new kid or Michael Riley, one of the two new players out of the portal? I mean, the new kid, and I literally am blanking on his name here. I'll pull it up to you right now. It looks to me like his name is Nate Borkircher, I think is how you say his name. But I mean, it's not a addition that gets me too fired up, because once again, he is a kind of blocking guy. I mean, over his career in 4 seasons, he caught 19 passes. So like, and then this Micah Riley kid, I like the upside more there, but I think Theo proved there's upside within him, so I'm kind of anxious to see what happens there. Then on the offensive line, it goes Zune, Besantis, Naboo, Reed Adams, Crownover. And I agree here. I mean, unless one of these guys hits the portal, I agree with this. I think you've got some great players behind them. I like Funk, and I like a lot of the young guys. There's a lot of great players on this offensive line. But I think if that's your starting 5, I feel really good heading into next season if that's your starting offensive line. So, and obviously, you'd like to improve on some of these players. It's always the goal. But if that was the starting offense, let me know in the YouTube comments, how would y'all feel about that? So that is the projection. I agree with pretty much all of that, in all honesty. We're going to move on to the defense, and we'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT sports coverage of the college football playoff begins on December 21st, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup of SMU battling Penn State at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns, as I've said all week. We'll all be rooting for that. In a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. So the starting defense we've got here at end, he's got Howell. No disagreements there. Fully agree. Tackle, Hicks and Regis. Would love to see Hicks. I mean, we kind of know what we got in Regis. Would love to see Hicks take that jump like we know that he's supposed to. I mean, he just a 5-star kid that never really seemed to make that 5-star jump this year. And you know it's in there. You know how talented he is. You know how good he is. You know that is in him. We've got to see it come out some way or another. So I'm kind of anxious to see when, if that's going to happen. So I'm definitely excited to see what happens there with that. So that'll be something that I am monitoring over the next few weeks, months here at Locked On Aggies. So I mean, he's a player that we'll be paying attention to. Then you got at the other end, you got Kennedy. Love the upside there. Think he's going to be a really special player. So I'm excited to see what ends up happening with him. Linebacker, he's got Scooby/Sanford. I think it's Scooby. I think Scooby's going to win that job. I feel pretty confident in him. I think the upside's there. I think he proved how good he can be. And I think that he's going to get even better. I think being in a new place and a new home is good for him. I think Scooby's going to be our guy there. Then we've got at linebacker, we've got York. I think Terry and York, we know who he is, no question there. One of the leaders on this team. I think one of the best leaders Texas A&M has seen on this in the program in a really, really long time. So no question there. Then at nickel, he's got Chappelle. Don't agree. I mean, don't disagree there. He'll be back healthy, hopefully good to go and feeling good. Then you got at corner, Ricks and Will the Blanket Lee. Feel good about those two guys. There's a lot of upside. They're going to continue to get better and better and better and better. At safety, got Anderson and Brooks. I mean, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see, you got Ratcliffe and Humphrey and Javon Thomas and Miles Davis that they talked about. He talks about here not being listed, but this secondary is going to be interesting because you have a lot. You just brought in Humphrey at corner. You have a lot of talented players in that room. So it's going to be kind of fun to see what's going to end up happening in the secondary. Who starts there? I think this will be the most talented secondary we've had in a long time because you brought in a lot of these players in the portal that have proven themselves. Now they're and then you got your young guys that have proven themselves a little bit as well. So you've got a lot of talent in this Texas A&M secondary, and it's going to be really exciting to see what happens with that talent. So I'm fired up about that. But I think that's going to be, you still got to go add some guys on the defensive line in the portal, which is going to be interesting. But for the most part, I'm really kind of fired up to see what happens in the secondary. Once we add more on the defensive line, that room will kind of look more what it's going to look like because you're losing a lot of talent there. So you got to have to bring in a lot, but I don't think Coach Elko is going to have any trouble doing that. That's going to do it for this week here at Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Helps the show a ton. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Every button you can, click it. Helps me out. Helps the show out a ton. Really, really appreciate y'all being here on a day-to-day basis. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy the college football playoff. We got a Texas A&M basketball game going on. A lot of fun stuff. Have a great weekend, and we will see y'all on Monday right here on Locked On Aggies.